Okay guys, to make this wrap trouser, you need your fabric. I'm using like 2 yards 9 inch of a chiffon fabric. So the first thing you do is to fold your fabric into four. This is four. 1 2 3 4, then the last one is under. So you need to fold your fabric into four. Now how do you fold your fabric? To fold your fabric is your hip divided by 4, then plus what you get. So the hip I'm going to be using here is 36. So 36 divided by 4 is going to give me 9 inches. So this is 9. This is 9 inches. I'm going to put in extra 9 inches, which is now double of my hip. The 9 inches I use for my hip, I'll still put that 9 inches extra. Then I'm going to add 2 inches extra, which is, that's total 11 inches extra. Now I'll explain to you why I'm adding that 2 inches extra in the process as we go into the tutorial further. Okay, so let's start. I've folded my fabric. So what I'm going to do is to get the length of my fabric. Now note that we are cutting directly on the fabric. Since we are not doing pattern, I have to add in the seam allowance for the waist, which is ½ inch. So I'm going to ensure I add that seam allowance, ½ inch for the waist. So this ½ inch is what I'll use to sew my band on the dress. So on this ½ inch line now, I'm going to minus my band of 2 inches. I'm going to get my crotch length. My crotch length is 11. 11 is my crotch length. So this is my crotch length. So I'm going to draw a straight line. Like this. So now how do I came about my crotch length? The crotch length is your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 2 inches. So my hip is 39. I divided it by 4, which gave me 9 inches. You get? Then I added 2 inches extra. That's what gave me the 11. 11 when plus our band. That is 11. You get? So this is it. So the next thing I'm going to do now, at this crotch level, I'm going to go in by 2 inches in order to get my what? Crotch curve. In order to get my crotch curve. So I'll go in by 2 inches from this end. I'll go in by 2 inches. Then at the waist, I'm going to come in by 2½ inches. Now this measurement I'm using is good for from 40 below. You can use 2 inches. You can go in by 2 inches at your crotch area, but from 42 hip size and above to like 44, 45 or 46, you can go in by 2½ inch at your crotch area. Then at the waist, you can go in by 3 inches. Okay, now so let's proceed. So I'm going to connect these two lines together. I'm going to connect these two lines together like this. Now note that the line is not straight, it's bent. So I'll just go ahead and draw my curve like this. So fabrics that are good for this kind of styles are chiffon, your vintage, or your crepe. Even Ankara, depend on your choice. So you can use any fabric for it. So I've gotten my crotch curve. Now I want to determine the length. So my length is 39. I'm going to mark 40 plus my folding allowance. So this is it about the whole thing. You just get the length of your trouser, you add your folding allowance, then ensure at the waist area where you're adding your band, you add your sewing allowance, which is ½ inches, then determine your length, the length of the crotch. Okay, so at the edge there, I'm going to draw a curve because I don't want it to be straight. So I'll go ahead and put a nice curve there. Okay, so that's the curve there. So I'll go ahead and now cut. So I'll go ahead and open up the side. Okay, so this is it. Like I said, there will be no seam allowance at this side. There will be no seam allowance at the side because it's a wrap trouser. So the next thing I'm going to do after cutting is to put in my dart. Now note we are going to be sewing with 1/2 inch on this area, right? So I'll mark my 1/2 inch that I'll be sewing. Then from here I'll put in my dart. My dart is 7.5. When I divide by 2, that will give me 3/4, but I'm just going to make it 4 inches. So my dart is 4 inches. I'll be using 4 inches for my dart. So that is it there. Then the length of the dart is 5 inches. 5 inches. So I'll draw a straight line there. So I'll be using 1/2 inch to sew on both sides. You get? Like that. 1/2 inch is the sewing. Okay, so that is my dart. So I'll just go ahead and notch it to know that, okay, this is where I'm putting my dart. Okay, so this is all about the trouser class. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section. We are going to reply it there. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Now the next we are going to be moving to the sewing phase of it. Okay guys, before we move further, I said I was going to explain something, but I didn't, so let me do that quickly. On while we folded this fabric, we added 9 inches extra plus 2 inches. Now that 2 inches is for the crotch intake that I made here, from here to here, the 2 inches. So if you are size 42 above to 46, please, you're going to be adding 2.5 inches extra. Then if you're above 46 up to like 50, you need to add like 3 inches extra to your fold, for your crotch intake. Okay, is that clear? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut my band. So I'm going to be cutting my band. So for my band, I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch to the 2 inches. My band is 2 inches, so I'll make it 2.5 inches. Now, from this place, our waist is this is 39.5 inches here. So I'm going to be adding extra 5 inches, which is 24.5. So 24.5 on fold, that will give me like 48.5. So that's what I need for my band length. So on fold, band on fold will give me 19 and a half plus my extra inches. That will give me 24 and a half. So the band we are working with, I already folded the edge here. You can see it's folded. So what I'll need is 24 and half inches for my band. So I'll go ahead and do that. So that is it. Then I'll mark mine 2.5 inch. Okay, so right here I have two bands. So one will be for the front, then the other for the back. So we're going straight to the sewing machine. Okay guys, I've gone ahead to sew the sides already, the crotch area, as you can see, from one end to the other. Then I also went ahead to put in my darts, as you can see in the video. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to sew the sides from one end to the other. So ensure you do yours. So you can decide to use to fold it tiny, or you fold it by 1 inch or 1.5 inch. You can do that as well. So that's me sewing the sides of this wrap trouser. I went ahead to do that all round. So after finishing the side seam, I went ahead to put in my band. So at this band area, I measured 5 inch away from the actual waist. That's to serve as my rope to tie on the waist. So that's the 5 inch there. So I went ahead to sew it from one end to the other. So I went ahead to turn the other side of the band to cover the sewing. So I flipped the band on the other side and did this edge sewing first before I went ahead to cover the band with the other part. Make sure your band is flat and relaxing well. It's very important. And also make sure you iron very well so that by the time you wear it will be looking flat. Okay, so I did the same thing at the other end. I measured 5 inches away from the waist area to serve as my rope, and I went ahead to sew the edge and conclude the sewing. I also did the same thing I did on this side of the waist at the other side of the waist. So I repeated the same thing there. Okay guys, this is the outcome of the sewing. This is what your wrap trouser should look like by the time you're done sewing. So I'm going to be showing us how we can wear this wrap trouser in 2 ways. So that's the first way to wear it. So that's the first way to wear it, and that's the back view. So that's the second way to wear the palazzo. Did I say palazzo? Wrapped trouser, please. Although it looks like palazzo, when you finish wearing it, the outcome just looks like palazzo, but then the other side will just be giving it a different vibe entirely. So that's the interesting thing about this wrap trouser. You can wear it in different ways. So this is the front view of the second way of wearing it. It's looking like a palazzo, viewing it from the front. Then the back view gives you a different look entirely. So that's the back view. That's what you get for the back view. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please, I would like you to snap a picture of yourself with this trouser and also leave a comment.